Welcome to another edition of Table Talk with the Mayor. My name's Greg Holden. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
Very well.
Good.
Last night there was a youth conference at the council chambers. People were talking about the interests of youth, what's going to take to retain them into Chatham-Kent. Any thoughts on last night's meeting?
Well, I think it's great because, number one, we completed a survey that was highly participated in, and it gave us a database in which to start to do some evaluation. Last night's forum was about talking directly to a few youth in the community, and it gave us an idea of what do they see today's issues facing them, but what they would like to see as they get a little older and live in Chatham-Kent. So last night's forum was a chance for us to ask some questions of four individuals, but most importantly to continue the dialogue further. Last night doesn't stop. It only begins how we need to move forward.
Okay. And it was, if you were having negotiations with somebody like Old Navy and you were talking about bringing them to Chatham-Kent, is that something that you would use social media to advertise?
Well, see, that's one of the problems that we're into is a lot of them already have their business analysis done up. They look for how many kids. It's not how many people respond. It's they know the demographics of the community. They're not asking, would you like? They're looking at how many kids exist, what the households are, what's the income level like, what's this, you know, they got a number of preamble questions that they use as standardized information or standardized questioning throughout every community that they look at investing. But I think it's one thing that we can do is to collect that data, maybe to offset their information. So if we do a Twitter analysis, whatever store it may be, and I'm getting a little bit of resistance from companies about Chatham-Kent or uncertainty about Chatham-Kent, maybe that's something we can do and promote through economic development. If this was to occur, how would you, the consumer, respond to this store being here? So it is another mechanism that we can use to add data to our collection, not theirs, to support our arguments for their investment in our community.
Okay, thank you. And as well, there are bike lanes. Is there any new bike lanes coming to Chatham, or is that?
Well, I mean, let's face it, a lot of it is around the budget issue, and you know, we're trying to manage what monies we have, you know, bike lanes, the roads, we still have roads that are, you know, need to be repaired. I think what we need to do, and that was one of the questions I tried getting across, is where are people getting their information from? You know, and when I hear the issue, there's hardly anything to do with Chatham-Kent. I look at my own schedule and say, there is a lot to do in Chatham-Kent. What are we missing to get that element of information out to them? Are we getting it front and center of our website? Are we Twittering it into the networks that are there? Are we Facebooking into the networks that are there about promotion? First of all, coordinating the community events, and then taking that coordination of information and sharing it with the broader public, not only our own residents, but out and about. So, and then I asked the same question about the trails and the bike paths and stuff. How many people know, other than if I'm driving down the road, that's where I know the bike path is? Where can I go that I can, you know, see the information, whether it's the nature trails that we have in Chatham-Kent or whatever? And are we getting that particular information instead of mixing it and bundling it with everything else we're doing? Is there a way that you can set that aside and actually hit your target groups that you're trying to attract? And I think it was important, some of the messages that were delivered. The one individual, the one you said, young adult I'll use because it was young adult that brought it out, says if I say to others outside the community, hey, look at this trail, or look at that, it was more of an interest, word of mouth, a friend of a friend of a friend, you know, will come and attract. So we've got to look at ways of improving our release of information and the networks in which we're traveling that information through.
Okay. As well as I've heard through the grapevine that there are 185 bike racks in storage waiting to be installed. Is that the case?
Good question.
All right.
I don't have an answer. I'm hoping not, but I know that it's all about, you know, getting things out. If there is some in, are we waiting for certain sidewalks to be done? Are we waiting for certain things to be done? I don't know the whole story, but it's something that we can look into to find out what is out there. I mean, we may have bought a lot, but It's about the active community group's responsibility to identify and execute that plan. I mean, we could have that many in sitting and waiting, but we depend on, instead of just going to put them everywhere, we've been trying to make sure that we execute them in the specific areas that the active community living group want to see these deployed to.
All right, thank you. And finally, is there anything new happening in Chatham-Kent for the mayor?
Well, I mean, there's always stuff happening around the office. One of the important things is that I was very pleased last night, especially, and Ivan's message I've been carrying is about the community itself. I mean, we are capturing the international stage. Chatham-Kent is now starting to be recognized in countries beyond our North American borders. And you know, I found it interesting even last night in the comments that we got to speak more positive. There's good things happening. Yeah, we all have problems. I mean, everybody has a problem. Right. But do we take that isolated incident and make it so big that it seems like it engulfs everybody's attention, or do we talk about the positive things that are going in our community and why would I want to live in Chatham-Kent? Do I want to live about bad things, or do I want to live in a tract because of good things? You know, we did hear that, yes, they'd like to see more bike paths, but we have bike paths. They wanted to see more nature trails, but we have nature trails and things that are going on. They talk about activities. You know, we need to, you know, promote that activity base that is going on. I mean, he was even brought up about the Festival of Nations, you know, that we used to have here in Chatham, and, you know, they'd like to see that where the international cuisines are actually being displayed and people... Because that not only makes a day of getting to taste someone else's cultural foods, but what it does is it becomes more cultural sensitive of what we need. In order for Chatham-Kent to grow, we truly need immigration. We need to bring people to Chatham-Kent, whether they're immigrating from Toronto or whether they're immigrating from an Asian community and coming into Chatham-Kent. And I think in order for us to be more receptive to different cultures, we have to display different functions that will say, this is why we're a welcoming community. It's because whatever your culture is, we build something around it. And it's so important that if we're to get the message out about positive things about Chatham-Kent, not only the mayor, but every citizen, and it needs to, wherever it is and whatever type of technology they use for communicating, has to share that message out there. Because, you know, I find it interesting when I hear about a newcomer coming to our community. One of the things people say is, why did you move to Chatham-Kent? We shouldn't be saying that question. We should be saying, welcome to Chatham-Kent. It is a good place. And yes, we have things we need to change. And I presented this in my opening remarks last night. Because we need new ideas. We need new energies. We need active people involved. Because I believe we need to make that progressive change that is required. But in order to get that progressive change or the ideas executed by others, we need to draw more people into it. Because in the bike lane issues, we have those who are saying, don't spend a dime on that stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, when I was growing up and a kid, we drove along the road with no helmets and everything else. And we have those that are saying, that's the lifestyle I want. So instead of colliding, how do we integrate and make sure that they're working together for a common goal to attract more people to Chatham-Kent, but also become a healthier community at the same time?
Well, all right. Thank you very much for your time this morning, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure because, you know, there's things that we can do. And Greg, I'm pleased the way you're taking this on as a, you know, not as just, you know, saying one side of the story, because as a reporter you'll have views, and it's important that we're able to share those through the story, because not everything is perfect, and not everything council does has a total understanding of from the general public of what we do. And it's so important that as we venture, like last night where we would listen to our youth, or we listen to our seniors, or we listen to those working families or non-working families, it's about accepting ideas, generating more information, so that when we come out with a strategy or we execute initiatives, the execution has positive results. And that is so important in today, that we first understand that we collaborate, we work together, but it's about execution, and it's about implementation and execution of active citizens in our community so that we can have positive results. Because everybody talks about taxes and budgets. It works down to basic economics. The more people I have to distribute the tax base over, potentially less payment is required per individual. But if I have less people living in the community with a cost structure that is hard to diminish any funds from, means those individuals have to carry more of the burden. So, and that's why I'm saying it's about, I need, and council needs, support of the community. Support of the community to be salespersons of Chatham-Kent. So we elevate the population, and by elevating the population, we mitigate the impact of each resident that is currently here about the tax implications that are associated to them.
I would agree. Jobs, jobs, jobs.
Correct, absolutely.
And that's been another edition of Table Talk with the Mayor this week, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.